It lays out the most explosive claim of all: how major fight money allegedly got routed. This is where the complaint starts naming actions, not just relationships. It alleges that around May 2015, Showtime wired Mayweather's purse and pay-per-view upside from the Pacquiao fight into a First Security bank account connected to Jeff Morris, rather than directly to Floyd.
Floyd Mayweather. God damn, Floyd. He said $300 and some odd million is missing.
Floyd Mayweather says $340 million is missing, and he's pointing at Showtime and a former exec with that wild explanation floating around about records being lost in a flood. But part two is where it gets uncomfortable, because now we're not talking headlines. We're talking the actual language inside the complaint, the parts that try to explain how money could move without leaving obvious fingerprints. And I'll be real with you. Whether you believe Floyd or not, these pages read like somebody sat down and tried to map out a whole system. Not a mistake. One quick reminder before we go deeper. These are allegations in a legal filing. They haven't been proven in court. But the details matter, because details are what make people start asking different questions. And the very first detail they push hard is this.
Before we get to the first detail, here's my question. Here's my thing. Is it possible he's just doing this because he blew his money? Or did he really get sucked? A part of me feels like, man, he trusts the wrong folks. And he got for a lot of money. Man, you can't just trust any and anybody around your money like that. You got to keep account of all your shit. I know it gets harder the more money you got. But the trust factor is a serious thing, man.
The person Floyd calls the mastermind is described like someone who made it a lifestyle to stay invisible. And the complaint even uses a phrase that sounds like it came from a detective movie. Because next, it describes a man known for leaving surprisingly few fingerprints. And that's where this story really starts. The complaint paints Haymon as more than just a manager. It describes him as Floyd's longtime advisor, someone Floyd trusted like family, so trusted that he allegedly handled virtually everything: finances, contracts, the whole machine. And then it shifts tone. It claims Haymon is known for operating behind the scenes with extreme secrecy, and it highlights a reputation for leaving surprisingly few fingerprints on transactions, basically suggesting that even people close to him don't see much. But the most attention-grabbing piece? The filing describes an old-school approach to communication that allegedly made it harder to find a trail later. According to the complaint, Haymon avoided normal digital communication and leaned on faxes and in-person meetings instead. And it goes even further, claiming that in related litigation, his counsel represented that Haymon does not own or operate a computer.
You got a financial advisor that don't got a computer on purpose? Oh shit, nigga, that sound like a scam already. How there ain't no digital fingerprints to nothing? I can't email you shit? That's a man, nigga.
Think about what that implies. If true, it's not just privacy. It's a deliberate way to keep instructions from living inside email threads forever. And once that picture is set, the complaint pivots into the next character, someone it claims had access where it counted, at the bank account level. This is where the complaint introduces a name most casual fans have never even heard: Jeff Morris. The filing describes Morris as a CPA and tax attorney who was allegedly brought in to handle Mayweather's tax and accounting matters, and the complaint suggests Mayweather didn't give informed consent to that arrangement. But here's the part that matters for retention, because it makes people sit up straight. The complaint says Morris was a signatory or controller on multiple accounts where fight earnings were deposited, and it gives an example that sounds like a red flag on its own: an account at First Security Bank of Nevada in the name of Jeffrey Morris Associates, or similar, allegedly designated to receive revenue from at least one Mayweather fight.
How you allow so much control in in your operation. Them niggas have control of your accounts. Prize money is going into accounts that you don't operate, that they have all access to. Yo, nigga, if you got to trust the motherfucker, like, nigga, that's a lot of money, man, to just trust a motherfucker, bro. And hundreds of millions of dollars is coming in and out all the goddamn time. A nigga fuck around, take 20, you wouldn't even notice.
The complaint's theory is that Morris didn't just do taxes. It alleges his role included facilitating transfers and concealing information at Haymon's direction. So now you've got a picture forming. A behind-the-scenes advisor, a financial gatekeeper, accounts that Floyd allegedly didn't control, but the complaint doesn't stop at he had access. It tries to explain how the relationship started and why Floyd allegedly trusted the setup in the first place. According to the complaint, Floyd met Haymon around 2004 through a mutual connection in boxing circles. It describes Haymon as a Harvard MBA, a former music concert promoter, someone who impressed Floyd with a fighter-first vision and maximizing earnings. Then it drops a detail that matters, because it frames how this could have grown unchecked. The filing claims Floyd understood their arrangement to be a verbal one-year management/advisory agreement around 2005, and it says the fee split was unusually favorable. Haymon would take about 10% and Floyd would keep 90%, far lower than what fighters often pay. But the complaint says after that one-year term ended, no new written agreement was signed. Yet Haymon continued in the same role for the next 15+ years, and the filing adds another psychological hook. It claims Haymon sometimes represented that he never took a dollar from Floyd beyond token amounts, creating a narrative of loyalty and friendship. The complaint suggests Floyd now sees that narrative as deceptive. So the filing is building a theme: trust, informal arrangements, and control behind the scenes. And right after it sets that foundation, it lays out the most explosive claim of all: how major fight money allegedly got routed. This is where the complaint starts naming actions, not just relationships. It alleges that around May 2015, Showtime wired Mayweather's purse and pay-per-view upside from the Pacquiao fight into a First Security bank account connected to Jeff Morris, rather than directly to Floyd.
Well, we said he was getting scammed from the beginning. It sounds like from the get-go, they orchestrated a play that throughout the years, there was bleeding money little by little by little by little, and Floyd ain't had no idea what the fuck was going on. If this is all true, it's still allegations now. But if $300 million is gone like that, yo, what a scam.
Let that sink in. The allegation isn't a delayed payment. It's the money was routed into a different account, and the filing frames that as an overt act that allegedly put the money within Haymon's reach, suggesting the structure itself was part of the problem. Now again, allegations. But for viewers, this is the part that changes the story from gossip to, wait, that's a specific banking claim. And once the complaint makes that claim, it immediately gives a second one that's even easier for regular people to understand. It alleges the accounting statements included inflated or false expenses that reduce Floyd's net. And the numbers it throws out are the kind that make people replay the sentence twice. The complaint claims that in accounting statements for fights, at least the ones they say they've seen, there were inflated or false expenses that cut into what Floyd would receive. And it gives an example that sounds almost designed to go viral. It alleges $50 million in vague expenses and $20 million for Andre Berto on the Pacquiao ledger. The filing's theory is that these kinds of entries could serve as paper justification to withhold money from Floyd, especially if they were inserted at someone else's request. Then it layers in another allegation: misrepresentations and concealment. The complaint suggests Floyd's team was told by omission that big chunks of money were being held back for supposed reimbursements. So the story the filing is trying to sell is this: route money into accounts Floyd doesn't control, reduce the net with questionable expense entries, explain away the gaps with vague reasons, keep the documentation hard to access later. And that brings us right back to the phrase that made the internet explode. Except now, the complaint ties it to the biggest fights. In the complaint, the lost in a flood idea isn't presented like a random excuse. It's framed as part of a longer pattern. It alleges that when Floyd's new team asked Showtime in 2024 for documentation of fight revenues and expenses, they were told some records, like payout spreadsheets or deal memos for the Pacquiao and McGregor fights, were lost in a flood or stored off-site and not readily accessible. And the filing makes the point bluntly. Whether or not a flood occurred, the result is that documents that would clearly trace the flow of money for the biggest fights are conveniently unavailable. That one line is why people won't let this go. Because those two fights are the money mountains. Now, the complaint shifts again. It says this wasn't just missing paperwork. There were allegedly banking records that show where money went afterward. And this next part is where the missing claim turns into a pattern claim. The complaint alleges that banking records obtained by Floyd's team show a pattern of large transfers from those accounts to Haymon Development, Incorporated, and other Haymon-owned entities. And here's the twist in the allegation. The transfers were often labeled as repayment or loan payoff, which would suggest Floyd was paying back money Haymon advanced. But the complaint says Floyd insists he never received such loans, and argues those labels created a false story on paper while money was being moved out. It even claims that after major fights, tens of millions would move shortly afterward, draining the account that held Floyd's money. Then it gets even more extreme. The filing alleges there were numerous one-off payments directly to Haymon or Morris on dates not connected to fights, with memos like Mayweather expenses, or no clear description. And the amounts listed are wild. The complaint cites figures like $12 million, $15 million, $3 million, $9 million, and more. If you're watching this, you don't even need to be a finance person to understand the emotional punch. The complaint is alleging money was leaving in huge chunks, with labels that don't explain much. But the next detail is the one that makes it feel like control, like someone deciding what Floyd was allowed to see. The complaint claims Haymon took great pains to make sure Floyd stayed unaware of these accounts and transactions, and it backs that with a specific allegation that's easy for viewers to grasp. It says, insiders claimed Haymon only let Floyd see what Haymon wanted him to see, actively hiding documentation. Then it drops the most wow moment. The complaint alleges that in one communication, Haymon directed Jeff Morris to send Floyd only the signature pages of contracts or forms, along with handwritten notes explicitly stating that he doesn't want Floyd to see the documents. If that allegation is true, it flips the whole Floyd should have read everything argument on its head, because it implies he wasn't even being shown the full paperwork. And right when you think the filing can't get more blunt, it introduces something that sounds like a smoking gun moment, a document that was allegedly altered, and a phrase that should have never been written down in the first place. The complaint alleges that on at least one occasion, Haymon or his agents altered a document to conceal wrongdoing. It describes an example of a faxed authorization form where the date appears to have been manually altered, whited out, and rewritten to misrepresent when it was signed. Then it claims that same document, which purported to authorize Jeff Morris to pay himself a large sum from Mayweather's account, had a telling notation at first. Basically, we need to cover our, and says that phrase was crossed out in the version sent to the bank. Now, I'm keeping this PG-13, but you get the idea. The complaint is arguing that the existence of that crossed out phrase suggests they knew what they were doing was improper, and they tried to clean up the trail. And then it adds another eerie timeline detail. It says after a late 2023 medical issue involving Haymon, described as a stroke, there was a sudden exit of key members of Floyd's camp, with multiple longtime lawyers retiring or withdrawing within months. That detail is in the complaint for a reason. It's trying to suggest panic, like people distancing themselves as exposure risk grew. And if you're wondering, why does Floyd say the damage is bigger than $340 million? The filing answers that too. In the damages section, the complaint doesn't just say money missing. It argues the harm is massive because of what that money could have become. It notes at least $340 million is allegedly misappropriated or unaccounted for, and mentions how historically lucrative fights like Pacquiao were. Then it argues that even conservative investing could potentially double money every 7 to 10 years, implying that $340 million could have grown dramatically over time. And it adds another angle. Floyd is now older and semi-retired, so his ability to generate that kind of income again is limited, meaning the opportunity cost is gone. Then it goes into the personal side. The complaint says the situation led to reputational harm and mental anguish because Floyd's entire public persona is financial success, the money team. It claims the scandal fueled rumors that he was broke or stuck overseas due to money issues.
I'm gonna put it like this, bro. I hope to everything I love, man, that, the man gets his money back if that's what really happened. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of money for them folks to be squeezing out of you year after year, and they just went right over your head. $300 million? That's generational wealth you just gave away to somebody else. No different than what Chico said with Tyson and Don King. That nigga got Tyson, man.